What's up, everyone? This is Dariusz Kalbarczyk, co-founder of NG-Poland and JS-Poland. Welcome back to Agular Master Podcast. Together with Manfred Steyer, speaker, trainer, author from AngularArchitects.io, we discuss everything related to our favorite framework. Today we have some special guest from Angular team, Minko Gechev. Hi Minko, I'm so glad that you are with us today. So let's start the show.
Yeah, hi Minko. Great that you are here. We have prepared several questions for you, and one of those questions is about NgModules. So the Angular team is currently working on making Angular modules optional. It has been an idea for quite a long time. And honestly, originally, it was not even planned to implement NgModules. So why did the Angular team implement them in the first place?
Yeah, hi Manfred. Hi Dariusz. Thank you for having me. So yeah, that's right. I was actually not part of the team when NgModules were introduced. This was back in Angular version 2 RC5, I think. I believe there were just a lot of ergonomic issues in declaring each individual dependency that a specific component is using. And in materials specifically, for example, when you need a couple of different directives and components that collaborate together, and you need to have them in the compilation context of a particular component, it was very verbose and error prone to have to list them one by one. So that's why the modules came in to be able to group logical units together that and determine the compilation context of a particular component. That's what I've heard, and that's like my intuition. But still, I was not really part of the decision-making process back then. I was part of the community rather than part of the Angular team at Google. So there might be other nuances that I'm not familiar with.
I see. Cool. So it seems like that making them optional now is somehow a challenge. Can you tell us a bit about those challenges that arise there?
Yeah, there are quite a few things that are a bit challenging. So we don't want to complicate things further. We want to keep things consistent. We don't want to introduce like generally many new concepts in the framework. We want to make the NgModules concept just optional. So the very first problem that we had in RC5, being error prone to list individual dependencies one by one, this would be a challenge as well. So this is something that we need to resolve by at the same time not keeping the hard dependency on NgModules for every single application. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is NgModules, they have quite a few responsibilities right now. They configure the compilation context for a particular component, so you can specify a schema. They also allow you to specify which components are available in the particular context, also configure the injector, so also logically group different components. So all these different responsibilities, they are quite important, and we need to figure out a way to achieve the same thing without necessarily having NgModules in all the different cases. But still, though, we don't want to remove NgModules as a concept. We just want to make them optional for whenever the use case allows.
Mm-hmm. And let's say we achieve this goal. We make it work to have optional modules. Who would you think could benefit from this, and who should stick with more traditional Angular modules?
I think pretty much anyone could potentially benefit. I have talked to different customers. Some of them really love NgModules. On some conferences, we have run surveys, and about half of the people state that they really love NgModules because how it helps them think about their application and group units together, and others prefer to not use them at all. I would say that anyone could really benefit. Maybe really large applications that are not following the so-called like scam pattern right now, where you have a single module per component maybe they would benefit the most. Also, everyone is going to be benefiting from improvements in the ergonomics when lazy loading individual components, let's say. You wouldn't have to load the corresponding module. You just have to load the component, and it's going to contain its entire compilation context and all the different providers that are required. The bootstrap process would look simpler. Beginners would get value from this for sure a lot, because this is going to be one less concept to learn. And from there, they're trainers too, right? They will not have to introduce yet another concept at the beginning.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. There seems to be a high learning curve. I mean, we are used to it, but people that are new to Angular could be shied off from it or could have a hard time.
Yeah, I agree. And with another, I guess, another benefit would be that there are going to be fewer boilerplates. So folks would not necessarily have to have multiple files when they want to declare a component. They can just have their components there, and that's enough.
Awesome. So can you tell us a bit how the Angular team could implement those optional modules and how it could look like for people developing with Angular?
Yeah, well, this is something that we're going to share in an RFC in the next week or two. I don't want to spoil the surprise, really, but let's say that we're thinking about the concept of having standalone components which just declare their compilation context and their providers that they depend on, and people will be able to interoperate between standalone components and Ng-Modules, so that anyone can get best from both worlds if they need to, and both Ng-Modules and the standalone components worlds like live really well together. That's kind of the idea. But there are a few other things in the design. It's going to be public in the next couple of weeks anyway, so anyone will be able to look at it.
Awesome. So we will make sure to check it out once the RFC is available. Okay, let's switch the topic. Let's come to another topic, a topic I'm also very keen of, namely micro frontends. So rumor says you are currently collecting case studies for micro frontends. What are your current learnings so far?
Yeah, the roadmap spreads rumors that are actually true. We have been looking into micro frontends for the past couple of months, and thank you very much for being so helpful to the team by connecting us with folks with whom we can exchange further. We can learn more about their requirements, and thank you for also giving talk about module federation during the team meeting. That is also really, really helpful.
Pleasure.
So we have been talking to many different customers, like 30-40 companies right now, about their approach to micro frontends, and a couple of different ideas started forming. So we're just going to describe these ideas in something like a cookbook, I guess, on Angular.io maybe, or in a blog somewhere. We haven't decided on the format. And from these different solutions, we're going to select one which makes sense for Angular, given all the specifics there. For example, there are some challenges around the way we compile applications, because the compilation instructions, they could be associated with different versions of the compiler compared to, let's say, the runtime. So we want to think about all these things, how they connect well together. Pick one solution, follow up with an RFC, request for comment from people, to see whether this generally solves the majority of issues that people are facing with micro frontends, and eventually move forward with tighter integration with the CLI, potentially, but not only the CLI, but the entire platform. There might be requirements in other parts of the platform as well. That's the current plan. There might not be a need to do anything also. That's also a potential outcome. We're very much in an exploratory state right now.
Awesome. Exciting times. I'm really looking forward to this cookbook, as you call it, because it could show several options, and perhaps for some people, one option is better, and for other people, another option is more suitable.
Yes, generally, we'll see how we're going to frame it exactly, because we may focus in the collection of articles on only applicable scenarios for Angular, or we may focus on explaining just the problem space. So we'll see how exactly we're going to frame it. It's not finalized just yet. It should start we should start shaping the plan in the next couple of weeks, I guess, too.
Awesome. So another topic we have prepared for you is the topic Zone.js. Some people really want to go zoneless, and it's also on the roadmap. And so I'm wondering, how could this work technically? How could Angular find out without Zone.js that it's time to do change detection?
Yeah, many different options. So we don't have a design for this just yet. A couple of, but we're working in this direction in some slightly different way. So a challenge with Zone.js is generally that we can't understand exactly when Angular needs to trigger change detection because of async await. Async await is relatively new API, already a couple of years old, I guess, which is probably considered ancient in the JavaScript standards. And we can't really monkey patch this API so that we can plug the Angular's change detection scheduling within it. So that was the biggest challenge with Zone.js, that we wouldn't be able to ship modern bundles after I think year 2017. I think that's when async await got introduced. So in order to, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So something that we did actually in order to mitigate this issue. In fact, we're going to be distributing Angular version 13 in ES 2020 bundles. So we are definitely moving forward with the new standards. We just implemented the Babel transform that detects async await and adds the necessary instructions to Angular to schedule change detection. And this already solves the problem with zones and async await. Another challenge with zones is that sometimes we trigger change detection a little bit more frequently than we have to. And for some applications with very complicated UIs, very complicated bindings, this may cause some frame drops potentially. For these applications, we're going to look into alternative solutions for scheduling change detection. This is still on the roadmap. There are other things that are high priority that we're currently investing in. So we haven't designed the zoneless solution, and different people in the team, they have different ideas that we would want to consolidate and share in the form of an RFC with the community to get everyone's feedback.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. That sounds amazing. So if we look at the perspective from an Angular developer, what do you think, what would change for them when they can go zoneless? Would it change the structure of the code? Would there be several different benefits?
Yeah, so people would probably not have to change their existing applications. We are committed to keep backward compatibility for sure. People who would want to take advantage of the zoneless way of developing their applications, there are a few options, I guess. They may either have to explicitly mark their application for to detect changes, explicitly notify Angular that something happened, and this may require their application to be detected for changes. Or we could potentially create proxies around the state properties within the components and schedule change detection on change. I would say the first alternative is maybe a little bit more likely because it's a little bit more deterministic. The other one is a little bit more magical, and we might not be able to proxy all the different assignments that could cause change in the state. but still very early stage. We don't have a particular solution to give hands to developers just yet.
I see. Yeah, I'm really looking forward into this possible future. Awesome. Yeah. So another thing you experimented with, the Angular team experimented with, was partial hydration. There was a demonstration sometimes, and just for the audience, the idea was to just download, I put it in a simple way, to just download an index HTML upfront, and then the rest could be downloaded as needed. The router, the components, and so on could be downloaded just when they are needed and not before. So there have been some experiments. Where did those experiments lead you?
The experiments, actually, that's still possible. If anyone would want to look at Vikram's example, it's available. It's functional for a subset of the framework. So it would not work for the entire framework, for example, with very dynamic content projection. The experiments show that this is a possible use case for Angular, and we are evaluating its prioritization to support it as a first-party feature. It's something that is directly embedded into the Angular framework and maybe universal. Since it is possible with subset of the framework already, this is not something that we have prioritized just now. And also we are seeing some more impactful efforts that we can be working on. So let's say that we haven't been moving this idea forward. And there are certain challenges, as I mentioned, with content projection, which are making things a little bit trickier.
Interesting. So when we look at the roadmap, there is one item there that sounds a bit like partial dehydration, partial hydration, ergonomic code splitting APIs, something like this. Has it something to do with partial hydration, or is it something different?
Not really. Yeah, it's mostly on the framework level. The hydration part is kind of like on the boundary between Angular Universal and the Angular framework, with the ergonomic component level code splitting. This is primarily going to target client-side applications, and it is going to work with server-side rendered applications as well. But the goal pretty much is to make it more easier for people to lazy load components. Currently, folks can still do that, but it requires a little bit more code. We want to make it more like natural and ergonomic. And with the optional NgModules that are coming, the RFC for them is coming. This is going to become even easier, I would say. And we'll be able to take on this effort.
Great. How those ideas enforce themselves. That's cool, or enforce each other's. Awesome. So let's talk a bit about web components. Some people were very keen of web components for some time. With Angular 6, we already got Angular elements for just wrapping Angular components as web components, or to be more precise, as custom elements. And I have the impression that since then, this solution didn't evolve much. So what would you say, what's the future of Angular elements?
Yeah, so we're working on some efforts that are, maybe they don't seem to be directly related to Angular elements. There are more general improvements that are going to improve the Angular framework, but improving the Angular framework would also improve the Angular element support, such as optional NgModules. This would benefit people from both Angular elements and non-Angular elements circles. The optional zoneless applications, this is something that we just want to, we haven't started designing yet, but we're heading there. It's going to be the same. A lot of the challenges of people with using Angular elements actively they're around zones. So I mentioned content. I did not mention content projection just yet, I think. We have also an item on the roadmap about dynamic content projection, I believe. This is also going to benefit not dynamic content projection, but improvements in the content projection. This is also going to benefit Angular Elements developers, specifically around like default content for content projection. These are some of the projects that we'll be working on that would move Angular Elements forward together with non-element use cases as well.
Cool. One more time, one feature is enforcing another feature or enabling another feature. I really like this, how you plan and how everything comes together at the end of the day.
That's what's been trying to do with that, and this applies for different Angular packages. Also, for Angular developers, like Angular customers, very frequently most of the time, let's say 95% of the time, we're focused on shipping features that would be beneficial for Googlers and external users. And I guess that's the power of Angular, that most of the things are shared, so we can make an impact for like either customer this way.
Cool. So let's talk a bit about the near future, because Angular 13 will be there in some months, I guess, or some weeks. What can we expect from Angular 13?
Yeah, I did a presentation about this yesterday. I can open my slides to make sure I don't forget anything major. I guess I'm excited about. So I like infrastructure in general. I'm excited about some build time improvements that with it. We have been shipping them incrementally, but particularly around the optimization of the build optimizer and the optimization of our JavaScript like kind of minification pipeline. Let me open the actual planning document for version 13 so that I can be even more explicit. I'll share with a couple of words why I'm excited about these build tools and about these build improvements and what they do. So in Angular, we have this build optimizer that analyzes the compiled code after the Angular compiler to figure out which constructs could be tree shaken. For example, we are adding some decorators to, as Angular developers, we're adding decorators to the classes so that we can specify them as pipes or directives or components. And generally, decorators, they can't be really tree shaken because nobody really knows what is the implementation of the decorators. They could be producing some side effects. They could be adding properties to window, for instance. But particularly for the Angular decorators, we know that they're not producing any side effects. They're just adding metadata to the classes. So with our build optimizer, we're performing static analysis over all these different decorators and also methods, also functions and classes coming from the Angular framework. And we're annotating them as pure so that a Cursor, our build optimizer, can get rid of them. Something changed, however, with Angular IV, and also we discovered an opportunity for further optimization of the build pipeline there. Now, IV transforms these decorators to static properties of the different classes. So we no longer really have decorators that we need to tree shake. And we also introduced Babel in our build pipeline, which currently allows us to move this transformation from like a custom way of detecting these things to a Babel transform. And this allowed us to reduce the build time for production applications with about 10%.
Wow.
And another optimization that we did is to replace part of the responsibilities of Cursor with ES-Build. ES-Build is a JavaScript bundler and optimizer that is implemented in Go, and it is pretty fast and does some, let's say, more like better fit optimizations for the Angular source code. After we pass the code to the build optimizer, to the Babel transform, we're passing it to ES-Build, where we're performing variable renaming. and variety of different optimizations. I guess it's mostly around variable renaming there. So ES-Build very efficiently renames variables and also makes sure that there is no variable shadowing. So variable shadowing sometimes impacts runtime performance a little because of the symbol lookup. And after that, we're passing the codes to Cursor for further optimizations. And this change that we've taken some of the responsibilities from Cursor and we put them to ES-Build, improve the build speed with another 10%.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, over 20% faster builds. Other improvements are around Webpack 5 build caching. So we're going to enable it as an opt-in, which is further going to improve build speeds. We also have Adobe font inlining, similar to the Google font inlining with it. We have been very actively working on improving the accessibility of the Angular component. So this is another feature that you could be expecting. This has been ongoing effort for most of the year, actually. So we really want Angular to be built for everyone so that you can build applications that are accessible almost from the start with minimum amount of effort. And there are some improvements around forms. You can currently enable and disable validators dynamically. I guess these are the main things.
Awesome. That means, to put it in another way, we just have to migrate to Angular 13 and we get immediately faster builds and tinier bundles. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Also faster tests. The test tear down environment after each test, this is something that we're going to enable by default. We updated to TypeScript 4.4, RX version 7 by default. Yeah. Localize is going to be now a stable API. I'm just looking at the release document right now. And I think these are the core things.
Awesome. That's really cool. People will love it, I guess.
Yeah, it should be a smooth update.
So what do you expect from the future of Angular? What are your personal wishes?
Yeah, I'm happy with how Angular has been evolving kind of gradually. We haven't had huge news that are breaking for the ecosystem, and I'm pretty excited about that. I'm expecting for the future of Angular to be, Angular will be minimalistic. There are going to be fewer concepts to learn. It's going to be easier to reason about, specifically composition of UIs by looking at by looking at a template. This is thanks to the standalone components that would eventually land, and also faster builds for sure. There are a couple of proposals there is a proposal by Igor on how we can introduce more kind of locality in the compilation of individual components. This is something that we're discussing from the very beginning with Ivy. And I'm happy to see that this would be something that we'll be able to move forward by having more deterministic compilation context for components.
Awesome. So the future is bright. So thanks for this, Minko. It was really a pleasure to talk in depth about all those topics with you. And now I'm handing over to Darek.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the good questions.
Yeah, so we have some non-technical questions for you also. And the first question, I think the hardest question, is what kind of person is Minko?
I am for sure passionate about building things and passionate about making sure that I'm providing value to people in certain capacity. It's a good question, though. I like it. That's really aligns with the literature I've been reading recently. I've been reading actually for a while. So I'm into martial arts, and from martial arts, I got excited about Eastern philosophy, and I've been reading about like different ideas, and they are all about kind of mindfulness and awareness. So that was an excellent question, which aligns really well with
Yeah, exactly.
my interest.
Exactly. By the way, what's your favorite food?
Oh, I love ramen.
Okay. Manfred, what about you? What's your favorite food? Can you hear us?
Good question. Good question. Mostly unhealthy stuff, I guess. Here I'm really fulfilling all the cliches. I like pizza. I like pasta. Yeah, I like also traditional Austrian food like schnitzel. Yeah, so of course chocolate and ice cream. And a lot of unhealthy stuff. So
okay.
Perhaps this is one reason for my issues with my weight. I'm not sure. I have to find out.
Really good picks, Manfred.
Yeah, exactly. Minko, what's your favorite movie?
Yeah, it changes over time. I've had like different favorite movies depending on. I really love Beautiful Minds, the movie with the mathematician. I've liked Fight Club a lot. I really love Ted Lasso right now, which is a TV show, but it's just really nice. It makes me happy, and Ted Lasso is such a nice person. I'm trying to be more like Ted Lasso, actually.
Okay. What about Bruce Lee?
Oh, he's definitely a legend. I'm reading a book right now, Zen in Martial Arts, and there are a lot of Bruce Lee stories there from the author.
Okay, let's back to the Angular a little bit. So you've been well-known community member before you joined the Angular team. What's changed for you after joining?
Yeah, I became a little bit more careful in shipping code. Previously, I was just like shipping libraries every other week, and that was a lot of fun. But also, at a certain point when I started maintaining a couple of dozens, or like I had like 300-400 projects on my GitHub, I couldn't really support and maintain all of them, and that's not something that we can do in Angular. If we maintain something, we're taking a commitment, and deprecations that are, although we have been doing them, they're taken really seriously. So this is something that has changed. I've been a little bit more cautious in shipping code. Everything is we just want to make sure that what we're doing, we have the commitment, we have the resources, and it's the best thing that we could be doing, because there are so many things we could be doing. Like we're discussing in the previous section with Manfred, so many different projects, and we definitely want to do all of them. But however, we need to focus on a subset of them because we're limited number of people, and the complexity is growing really, really fast. So we want to make sure that we're focused on the right things.
Yeah, that's the best way. That's the best way to get this mess out. Yeah. So
focus is king. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So how many people do you have on the Angular team?
I'm not sure exactly, maybe 20, 25 spread among the different sub-teams, components, framework, and we have DevRel too, and tooling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have some hints for us regarding self-organization?
Yeah, I guess something that I've been doing and I've been finding is to be consistently useful is I've been organizing my my goals, I guess, in separate different ways. I have some very high level goals that are more like direction that I need to be that I would want to be working towards. I'm always actually adding annual goals, which sometimes become relevant, but often a couple of months after I have set them, they're just no longer applicable, and I have done a completely different set of things. In Google, we're doing something similar. We're doing annual planning, and we have 3-year or more goals for the future. And also we have objectives and key results for every quarter. I find this to be really helpful, actually. It keeps us focused on the right things, and it keeps us more accountable. Nobody would really, maybe there is no punishment culture also that which works really well. So, after that, I also love setting weekly goals for things that I would want to accomplish. And every day discuss with myself and my colleagues what I would want to accomplish for this specific day and keep track of these things.
So every day?
Every day. I have kind of something like a note for every week where I'm listing what I have accomplished over this week. And I just use a separator, just like a straight line of what I have accomplished and what else I have to complete this work. And I'm just moving them from bottom to top.
Okay.
Whenever I finish something.
Okay, that's really good. How does a typical working day at Google look like for you?
Recently, I've had quite a few meetings from like 5 to 15 hours, 20 hours a week. That's a lot of meetings sometimes. And this includes also conferences, checking in with people who are using Angular. So usually it starts, let's say, around like 9:15 or 7, depending on whether I need to catch up with someone or in Europe. Sometimes I have meeting at 7. I don't love these, but it's fine. Or like at 5 when there is a conference somewhere else.
What time is now?
Now it's 9:45.
Okay.
So now it's great. After that, we have a daily stand-up where we're discussing what we'll be doing this day and what we did the previous. And after that, usually some planning meetings and reviews of designs. There are quite a few designs that we're producing that need to make sure that I'm familiar with, and I'm like approving together with like other folks from the team. Same with pull requests, review and approval of pull requests, and writing design documents, product requirement documents, and code whenever it makes sense. A lot of in developer relations, sometimes we have other activities that are more socially oriented. So, for example, reviewing developer survey results or reviewing feedback that we're getting from different sources, let's say GitHub, Twitter, YouTube. It's pretty different, actually. That's what I love the most in my position. That's one day I could be just heads down coding for 8 to 10 hours, and the other day I could be in Google Developer Studios recording a video about what's coming up in Angular. That's pretty exciting thing for me.
Did you change your style of working during the pandemic?
Yeah, actually quite a lot looking at it right now. Previously, I used to work on a laptop. I've been working on a laptop for maybe 10 years without external monitors, without anything. And for the past 6 to 7 months, I got a pretty massive monitor and I have a stand-up desk. I guess what changed my style of working was that with the pandemic, I didn't have such a comfortable chair as the one I had in the office. So I started getting back pain and just decided to put some investment into my kind of like work equipment. So I got a stand-up desk and all these fancy equipment right now with the lights and the camera. That's mostly it. Aside from that, my work style has been very similar.
The last question. What's about your work-life balance? Do you have some hints for us, for our audience?
Yeah, it's very easy so it has been very easy for me to have zero work-life balance, specifically because really passionate about open source, and even opening Twitter or LinkedIn, that's kind of already doing some kind of work. Someone would message me or like mention me on Twitter, and I'll follow a link and I'll start reading a pull request. And it's very easy to get out of balance. I've been trying to have like actually in the past, I've been really, really bad in managing work-life balance. I've had 60, 70-hour work weeks where I was working on my startup, and after that pushing code open source. Now it's a little bit more balanced, I'll say. I'm trying to stick to 8-9 hours a day, almost like no work over the weekends, or if this work, it's on personal projects, something else that I'm passionate about, and trying not to have too many integrations with my work accounts on my phone. That's a new thing that I'm experimenting with. So currently I don't have my work email on my phone, and we'll see how this is going to go.
Okay. You still working on your startup?
No, not involved in my startup anymore.
Okay.
Just doing some side projects, open source, or just using Angular to build web apps.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, Minko, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to talk to see you. We've met last time, I think, on NG-Poland, on last NG-Poland, yeah?
Yeah, you're right.
It was amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you, Manfred, my lovely co-host.
Thank you all.
Okay.